Sustainability Board, August 28, 2019, 7 p.m.
To order the August 28, 2019 Sustainability Board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business, would like to open the floor for public comment. Please come to the podium if you'd like to speak. Give us your name, where you live. Please come up.
Okay. So I'm Monty Montgomery. I retired from Harris. I'm a professional engineer. But a friend of mine, Terry Castro, got me going to all these Save the Indian River Lagoon meetings. Courtney Barker's at all those meetings, and Virginia Barker's got an incredible crew working on her from our county stuff. So I'm going to the NEP meetings. Frank Catino does a great job. You don't have to record all this, do you? I'm just explaining who I am.
It's recording.
So I'm just interested with Ken Lindeman and the FIT folks. I'm working there also. But Satellite Beach clearly is out in front of everybody else. Tonight, Dick said somebody was not here because they're at the Melbourne Beach kickoff for their sustainability plan. And I'm working with COCO's sustainability plan. And I just got yours the other day and was looking at the Satellite Beach sustainability plan, although my focus is more on resiliency. But at the same time, I've been talking with Frank and other people, looking at the Jason Evans the other night, gave a pitch on resiliency in the area, and then Thomas Rupert and the Aaron Deedy also had a really interesting presentation. But Jason Evans' presentation was most interesting to me in that you guys do seem to have your stormwater drainage addressed and understood well. I think that's one of the key areas in the 2020s where we're going to see problems with the municipalities is standing water and getting the water off the island. So I've got no other comments. I just introduced myself. I wanted to come up here. One thing actually that I'm interested in with City of Satellite Beach's sustainability plan is I see City of Cocoa doing this. Titusville has a good plan. They're doing this for Melbourne Beach right now. I'm working with Palm Bay. But you set up all these spreadsheets with all these metrics of things you're going to track. And I wonder how well that's actually tracked in the future. I mean, it's great to make these spreadsheets, but no one does anything. So part of the reason I'm interested in coming tonight is where does Satellite Beach go with the tables that were made in the 2017 issuance of the sustainability report? You know,
what was that? 2 council meetings ago, he went through all of them
and kind of addressed the row items.
Well, we took I forget how many items there are, and broke down and made 20 what we call green achievement targets, GATS,
yes,
to work on in 5 years. And we've gone through, some of them are done, some of them are partially done, and I think part of tonight's going to be discussing
particulars,
kind of the
aggregate,
the next step, the next 5, beginning to talk about the next 5.
Came on the perfect night.
So that's fine. So I'm just here to support, and part of what I'm trying to do is help out with information across the county, what's going on at FIT. My original thing was water quality, and I found out that many people are doing measurements. Who collects that? How's all that collated? It's not well done now, but Harbor Branch is collecting data, MRC's collecting data, FIT's collecting data. But all the right people are in touch with each other. Dwayne DeFries at NEP, Dr. Jim Sullivan at Harbor Branch, Dr. Weaver, and those guys at FIT they seem to all be it's a close social circle. Courtney Barker's going to all the county meetings. The county's doing incredible stuff with their Save the Indian River Lagoon program. I'm impressed with all the detailed planning that they do and the execution of activities. I think they're very successful in the way they're spending their money right now. So I'm just here tonight to support you guys. And this city has its own special problems in the proximity to the ocean, the odd way that the river is encroaching upon the land, more so than, say, the seawater is coming in from the other side. I think you guys all recognize that the greater problems are here on the west side of the city than on the east side. That's an interesting challenge. I'm going to the Blue-Green Algae Task Force meeting on Thursday in Gainesville. I don't know if anybody, Thomas Rupert will be there, who was here last week here at this meeting. He'll be there at that. I don't think that Satellite Beach has a big issue with blue-green algae, but I might be wrong. But not like Palm Bay is going to have, or some of the outlying areas close to the St. Johns River, but you're going to see a lot of problems with algae growth. And I was at the Melbourne meeting a month ago when they had pitchforks and torches outraged about the algae blooms in the Lake Washington area that might be contaminating their water consumption.
That's our water too.
Yes, it's our water.
Yeah, that's.
Is that true? I
Yeah.
believe the water here comes from Cocoa.
No, we're in Melbourne.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
Cocoa goes
that.
as far south as the base. Cocoa
Thank you.
supplies the base, but that's the end of it.
So they're mostly artesian, and then Melbourne is
Mix of-
two-thirds
Well, it's a
two-thirds
mixture of.
Lake Washington and one-third artesian. They're going to go half and half. But still, to me, I see the issue there is making sure the citizens are calmed about, what the real dangers are. The Melbourne folks were unable to really do a great job of explaining their wastewater treatment and how it's not likely that toxins would be transmitted to the homes. Apparently, and it was Representative Fines really noticed that there's a lot of work on Facebook and other social networks to spread information about contaminated water and things that the officials in the cities might not see right away. So-
It's not information, it's misinformation.
Yes, I believe that's true.
We've been the
but-
butt of that here.
Yeah, and I think all the municipalities are going to suffer that in the future. So it's good to have a good explanation ready for citizens on how their water is a closed system, it's treated before it enters the system, and we do remove toxins and things like that. And next week is I'm meeting with the Cocoa people. They're also meeting tonight on a stormwater plan in the city of Cocoa, but they're working on their sustainability plan. But I'm really interested in their stormwater drainage, and tonight they have a 10-year stormwater drainage plan. I think you guys had something like that recently. Courtney mentioned last week that there've been some stormwater projections.
We had one done in 2001, and then it's been updated. But eventually, we're not going to be able to deal with it when the water gets in.
No, it's true, and part of the problem, I don't think a lot of people are mentioning is, as you have, and Courtney mentioned it the other night, is if you have reverse flow boxes and you have these things called baffle boxes which capture things, there's a variety of manufacturers and suppliers, and in a severe weather event, those will probably have failures here and there, and some of those, and they may choke off that path of stormwater removal. So it's something people haven't been addressing. Most of the plans and resilience plans I've seen are addressing sea level rise and things like that, and they're really not addressing the stormwater event that dumps water on you for a day or two, and you're really inundated and unable to get rid of the water. Although out here it's pretty sandy soil, it will also absorb into the water. So, okay, I don't have anything else. I just showed up to.
Awesome.
Monty, I had a question. The first question, you said you were
PE.
engineer? What kind of engineer at Harris? Electrical?
I was an electrical engineer for years, but
Okay.
that was years. I mean,
Okay.
most of my career has been in what's called systems engineering. So
Okay.
I've worked on comm systems, satellite systems, intelligence systems. The last program I worked at Harris was the supercomputer that runs the models for where the hurricanes are going to hit. So right now, there's a supercomputer in Herndon, Virginia, and there's a back one in Orlando that run these models that are basically at Goddard about where the storms are going to hit, collecting data from the GOES satellites and other entities. I've done a lot of NOAA work and National Weather Service work as well, but a lot of intelligence community stuff that I don't get on the internet much or have a Facebook page or things like that. So.
My last question was the baffle box that you said. What goes wrong with them?
No, I'm just saying that as a systems engineer who used to be a reliability engineer,
Yeah.
if you have a path, and a city like this has, let's say, 50 pathways to take away their stormwater.
Right.
Yes, I don't know what. In fact, there was a map that I'm trying to get from Jason Evans last week presented. One of his slides had the Satellite Beach stormwater system on there.
I believe that should be on the internet, I think, isn't it? Craig?
And it could be.
Yeah, it is.
Right
The
now.
technical, well, you go to the site, the website and look, I think the two reports that were
My
discussed
my
here
point
should
is
be
that
there.
as an engineer who's got a lot of experience is, if you have 50 pathways, the probability of one or two of those, three of those pathways failing for whatever reason, they're overrun by vegetation ingestion, the box itself fails. The break boxes, baffle boxes inside are dissimilar in the way that they get water through there, the way they have backup and safety and diversion if like the main filter area fails. I'm just dipping into that, but I've just been in meetings in other municipalities where they said, well, how often do we maintain the baffle boxes? And that's a soft question because different types of baffle boxes will require different types of filter products to be added at different rates, and they probably have different lifetimes. And to think that they'll work for 22 to 25 years without starting to have internal components that start to fall apart is probably too optimistic. So to me, I see one of the strongest areas for hazard in this municipality and other municipalities in Florida is sustained severe weather events where we get just inundated. If you guys don't know this, with the polar caps melting and less negative pressure at the poles to pull the storms up, we're going to see hurricanes moving slower than we've seen in the past. And also, as more carbon's in the atmosphere, you have more energy retained in the atmosphere, so it shakes the atmosphere around it. So we're going to see more intense storms with longer durations. So we'll see more ingestion and rates of water flow on top of these municipalities than we've had in the past. So that's simply why I think that paying attention to if you have a road washed out, it takes out the sewer lines and the stormwater lines and also the power lines, the potable water lines that are under those roads. The municipalities need to be ready to address those issues and turn that around in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm interested in sustainability, but I'm also interested in resiliency.
Right.
The stronger thing that I'm interested in.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
right, Mr. Montgomery, we're so excited you're here with us tonight. Actually, we're doing an exercise tonight where we're going to be working on our next set of drainage treatment targets. I'd like to.
No, I'm happy to be involved in this. Like I said, I work with Ken Denham, and you guys are at the tip of the spear. What Satellite Beach has done is ahead of anybody else in the county. And Titusville's done some good stuff. I don't know who did that, but I found their resiliency plan is actually excellent. And it addresses specifics. The Satellite Beach plan, from what I've seen, also addresses specifics, like this street, this area. We recognize that we may have issues here. And I think that's, the other one's a little bit flowery. So I'm happy to do that.
Cool.
Because what will happen is the information that the parks made here can then be shared by the other communities.
Absolutely.
To kind of support the same kind of issues. Lavar has 7 or 8. And also I went down to Indian River. They've got their own clean water coalition and other things. And then there's St. Lucie have one of that. And it turns out that there's a lot of people doing parallel efforts.
Cool.
A lot of people are just good citizens, but they don't have the training to really understand how to prioritize their actions and expenditures and stuff. So.
Well, as we go through our exercises today, we'll go through them as the board, and then I'd like to, once we finish that certain exercise, add you in on public
And I had all
comment.
these comments to say, and it's, okay, meeting's over, and it's like,
Right.
oh, I've got.
If you want to hang out with us, but
Sure.
hopefully we won't be here too long.
I'm good, I'm here.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Any further public comment? No. Next order of business, staff update.
Hello, board.
Hey.
Good to see everybody. So today, we are going to start with our work underway. On Thursday, July 25th, the Sustainability Workshop community involvement was held. And we highlight what programs exist in the community and what residents can do to be involved in the community, because sustainability involves the social aspect of our community, so we wanted to make sure that we highlighted a workshop designed at that. That was pretty well attended, but not as well as attended as some other workshops, and I always invite everybody out there listening and the board members as well to attend our workshops. Then, after that, worked with Public Works staff to remove some excess vegetation from in front of City Hall Pond. In the past couple of years, the pond has been closed off for manatees because they got stuck, as you all may remember. So the vegetation that's in there, it kind of grows back a little bit quicker and thicker because there's nothing eating it. And because of that, we were in there all day removing vegetation with Public Works, and big thanks to Public Works and coming out and helping remove the vegetation to make sure that it looks good in front of City Hall. That's something that we're going to have to do continually, and that will require continual maintenance. Next, we were officially awarded, you may have heard this, but we were officially awarded full funding from the National Estuary Program for the Sampson's Island Submerged Land Restoration, also known as Sizzler. This project will complete the Green Achievement Target number 18 once it is completed. I've been communicating with our 10-plus partners on the project and setting up phone calls to discuss their roles and to put the final paperwork into the NEP so that we can get the contract going, but we have been awarded the funds, now we just have to get the contract signed. And again, that's the Habitat Mosaic on the west side of Sampson's Island that I've discussed previously.
And in previous meetings, you thought it was going to be half? Was that
We
it?
got half,
You got half?
and then they awarded the rest.
Okay.
So we're very excited to say that we have all the funds from the NEP, which is fantastic. And then after that, Resolution 1014 was recently approved by Council, and alongside that resolution, we created a green team to assist in creating the framework that will actually implement Resolution 1014. And the goal of this is to ban the use and the purchase of single-use plastics and styrofoam in the city for municipal purchases. And this is to be completed within the next 6 months. And we've already had our first meeting. We're talking about what is mission critical, what is items that we have to have that are plastic, whether it's an item that is EMT or police or fire, that there is no substitute for yet, and that we don't have on a list. But if it's mission critical and we need it to do our jobs, or if there's no other alternatives, we're going to create that list, and we're going to create language that will allow us to do the most that we can, to be as sustainable as we can, but to also be realistic in achieving our goals. So that's something that's being worked on now. There's an individual selected from each department that has come on board the green team and is educating us as a green team as to their particular needs, whether it's fire, rec, city hall, police, public works. And then we'll get on to the topics of what is mission critical and what is items that we can actually change out. And then, big one for me, continuing the plantings on the DeSoto project, the DeSoto Stormwater Enhancement Project, as part of the NEP funding for that project. We've completed phases 1, 2, 3, and we are looking to complete phase 4, which will be planting on DeSoto, an additional bioswale area. Looking to do that. The 28th of September is the tentative date. I sent out an email today to volunteers to try to get them excited. But that'll look at the 28th of September from 9 to noon to do some planting in a small area on DeSoto. We'll continue planting that until we're done. We'll try to end planting this year, try to avoid hurricanes, and try to make sure everything survives by planting. I'm going to do a little less variety as we did in past plantings, but bigger, more substantial plants that will survive and not allow for as much grass growth to get in between the little plants, because maintenance is always an issue. Next is, we've continued testing the natural herbicide alternatives, and actually the test areas have been allowed to regrow so that we can do another phase of testing from a base layer, as opposed to just continuously applying. We did that, and that seemed to work really well. We're going to look at different rates of application and concentrations on the second round. Also, unfortunately, our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram intern is no longer with us. Julia has moved on to an intern position in the Keys, so don't feel too bad for her. But she will be missed, and I've taken back on the social media postings. They won't be as flowery or as fun, but I'll try to get the information out there just the same. Focusing mostly on using the Facebook, and then once I get comfortable with my postings again, I might try to get more things on the Twitter and the Instagram, even if they're just simple pictures and things of that nature.
There's been some good stuff on Facebook recently, I feel like.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's come up on my feed. I've been like, I like this. Where did this come from? I'm like, oh, it's
Well, there you
us.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been posting
Was
for
that
the
her?
week.
Or was that you?
It was me this week.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, but before that, it was Julia, and she did a great job. I try to keep them a little bit more factual and local in some ways with some of the local facts and local things, the themes that we kind of talked about, where it was, I was misspoke, but just as factual as she was doing. But the facts of like what we're doing internally within the city and things like that. And then each day has a theme, as we talked about before. So Monday is going to be Beautification Monday. Tuesday is Think Local Tuesday. Wednesday is Sustainability Update Wednesday. Thursday is Think Global Thursday. And Friday is Fun Fact Friday. I probably will lay off the weekend posts a little bit unless something important comes up. But again, if anybody has anything they want me to post, John always sends me good stuff. I'm trying to organize where I can find an appropriate time for all those different posts that are kind of themed to what we're doing. And please keep sending me good stuff. Thank you, John. Mr. Fergus has sent fantastic stuff that will make it onto the Facebook sooner than later. And then next, the Earth Friendly Community Campaign with Councilman Mindy Gibson. Continuing to work on that when we can. Haven't really gotten to meet with her as much as I wanted because last month was very busy with some other items that I'll get to. Also, one of those items is the next thing on my list, and that's the Association of Climate Change Officials, the training in Orlando. Myself and a number of other staff went to Orlando for this ACCO training, August 1st and 2nd. Myself and Alexis Miller will continue the training in September on the 5th and the 6th and get the accreditation associated with that to be climate change officials. Other staff members attended it so they could get a general knowledge of climate change and to better understand the conversations that we're having by attending that workshop. And it was very, very informative, and I'd be happy to go into that in more detail if anybody has any questions later. But there's a point when you can know too much, and too much information can be oversaturation to the point where I had to take a minute and just kind of go to the beach and breathe for a minute. But that was a really great training, and I'm really looking forward to the next half of that here in September. Then there was another conference the week after that, August 8th and 9th, was the Department of Environmental Protection Resilient Florida Conference, the first of its kind, and that was where the oversaturation can kind of come into play, where you continuously talk about sea level rise and climate change and the impacts. And this DEP one was, again, very informative, and there was a number of different breakout sessions that talked about a few things. The highlight of it, I'll give you two highlights real quick here. One of them was to think of the projects that we tend to do are these projects that last. If you want to save the lagoon, it's going to take decades, right? If you want to do big projects that matter, it's going to take a long time to achieve them. If we want to do the Ready for 100 to go towards solar, it's going to happen over decades, not just days. And the sometimes political climate that we live in is a 4-year climate, so it's tempering your expectations and knowing how to communicate messages beyond the 4-year cycles of political, comings and goings that you may experience, which was very interesting for me to kind of see mayors and scientists talking together about these issues in ways that were something to really kind of a take-home message was one of that, as well as news on mangroves growing more northern than ever before in recorded history. The mangroves are making their way into more northern parts of Florida, which is very interesting, to say the least, as far as climate change.
It's kind of counterintuitive, right?
Well, as temperatures change and we get less freezes, the mangroves tend to move north.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, but great conference. And again, if there's any more questions about those different conferences, and please do talk to me about those. I'd be happy to do one-on-ones. And also, City Council approved the installation of 35 Keep America Beautiful cigarette collection containers. When Dylan is here next, he'll show a video. We'll probably have them up, and we'll probably play the video on Facebook before then, but I just want to let everybody know he made a very nice video that is short and to the point, and going to just tell people what they are, so that when people see these containers, that they don't just walk by them, so that they actually become useful. They're going to go at our beach accesses. They're made out of metal. They're fireproof. They're highly easy to change out, and they'll go at municipal facilities and beach accesses, so that we can give people a designated location to put their cigarette butts that isn't on our beaches. So that's really glad to see that program came back around. I know we tried to do that about 2 years ago, so it's good to see that come back around. And this was free through Keep America Beautiful. Then we did, as John talked about earlier, viewed the Sustainability Action Plan update PowerPoint presentation with the City Council. And shortly after that, we talked about the Resiliency Research Grant from Florida Sea Grant on the 21st here as a workshop, which was mentioned earlier by our public comment. And yeah, that was really fantastic workshop. If you want more information on that, I have the PowerPoint slides, and they should be up on the city page. And I did mention the City Green Team had its first meeting, and again, that's going really well. If you have any comments or ideas about that, please do get with me and let me know, and I can mention it at the next meeting. And we did also have a meeting to discuss the future of geographical information systems, which is GIS, and mapping in the city to map data and information. And last but not least, I did get to meet with Satellite High School to discuss the continuation of the Sustainability Board that has moved from Delora to Satellite. We may be able to keep it at Delora, but because all those students graduated, it's proving rather difficult to recruit new ones since the teacher that was there moved to Satellite. So we're trying to keep the program alive, but we may have to shift its focus for a little while before we can regrow it at Delora. That was a lot. That was all the ongoing. The public events and meetings, only 2 in this column. Friday, August 16th, Sustainability Bike Ride. I actually got to attend, which was really great. It was a good bike ride. On the 26th of August, at the Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences building, the IFAS building, the Brevard Sustainability Working Group held its meeting, and we discussed our solar workshop event where we're going to team up with the Florida Solar Energy Center, and the Brevard Sustainability Working Group will co-host a lunch and learn workshop for sustainability boards, city officials, mayors, city managers, commissioners, to educate them about solar and what they can do to promote solar in their community. Hopefully, you know, our solar on our city hall, Titusville Solar on their facility, and a few other different people will come out and talk about the experiences with solar. We'll also have people from FSEC talking about solar technologies, solar financing, and all the different solar programs that exist and experiences with installing solar and things that they might want to know. And then there'll be a panel at the end. That is slated for October 16th, that solar workshop. And then...
Where is that and what time?
It's going to be at FSEC, the Florida Solar Energy Center in Cocoa. And we're going to put out a press release this week, and it should be really good. Hopefully we'll get a lot of attendance.
Is the solar community beginning to talk batteries or storage also, or not?
So I did talk to FSEC about batteries and having a portion of the workshop talk about that. We need to have the conversation with FPL and the grid and understand more about when you have your solar getting off grid or not getting off grid and how that impacts the grid and the dangers of that. If, you know, you're generating power and you're on the grid, you could really injure somebody if they're fixing lines somewhere else.
Well, it has to have a disconnect, just like your solar panels.
Right. So, I mean, I think it's a worthy piece of the conversation, and the technology will only get better the more that we support it. So I think the one speaker that I'm looking at to talk about that, if they get back to me and we get to go over their PowerPoint, it's something that I want to make sure that they talk about.
Because the thing is, like, you've got commercial folks like Tesla and stuff that are selling home battery systems.
Yeah, we could,
So
we will have a solar workshop here in the city later in the year, and that might be a really good place to have those types of vendors talking about their stuff.
and are you going to, is FPL invited to this to talk about their, what do they call, solar together or something, sun together or whatever?
Yes, Nancy is my contact at FPL, and I mentioned it to her before, and now that we talked with the Brevard Sustainability Working Group, we'll make sure that we include them as well. The last things for me are future topics and presentations. August 29th, Community Gardening Workshop will be here in Council Chambers, And we'll talk about the Logos Community Garden, its life and the story and how it's been for the past couple of years. And we're actually going to also promote a work day, which will be at the garden on Sunday, the 15th of September. Trying to get out there and help everybody clean out their beds and get ready for the next season, because it would rain so much that everybody's beds are in need of a little maintenance. And we're going to try to do a little work day out there to kind of tidy up that area, because everybody needs a little help with that. We'll also talk about composting at the workshop and work with KBB to set up a composting workshop here in the city. And everybody at the community gardening workshop will be asked if they're interested, and we'll make sure we send them an email, just like we did at the Earth Day, Coastal Garden Fair and Earth Day event, where we have a list of people, 3 or 4 people from that event that were interested in a composting workshop, and we're going to make sure that they're made aware of it before the end of the year. We're going to have one here in the city at the community garden. Classroom presentations are starting to be scheduled at the schools, but no confirmed dates yet. And last but not least, the reminder that the Brevard Sustainability Working Group will have its next meeting at 12 noon on Monday, September 23rd at the UF-IFAS, University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences building at 3695 Lake Drive in Cocoa. Other than that, one other thing did pop up, Drive Electric week, and the Drive Electric event will be held at the DRS from 10 to 4 on Saturday, September 14th. And International Coastal Cleanup with Keep Brevard Beautiful will be on Saturday, September 21st. And we will be hosting the Pelican site, just like we did last year, and I think Publix is going to bring some water and stuff in the big pump, 5 gallons, so no water bottles there. And last one, DeSoto Phase 4, like I mentioned one more time, just want to make sure that that one is mentioned, is the Phase 4 planting of DeSoto, the bioswale, Saturday, September 28th, from roughly 9 to noon. So that'll end staff update for this month. If there's any questions, feel free, and thank you so much, board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any further public comment?
You can sign me up to volunteer on the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Skip an email.
All right. Next order of business, I'd like to see if we could give our board member comments first, or the next, as the next part, thing of business. Can we do that? Can we skip around?
Yeah, you can move.
Is that okay with that? All right, so I'd like to ask everybody for their board member, what?
I said the remix.
Yeah, we're remixing it. Any board comments? Do you have anything to comment on, any of your projects?
I'll be real brief. At the council meeting last Wednesday after the resiliency workshop, which I attended, which was very informative, the Three Twin Millennials, KBB, Millie, the Sea Turtle project was approved by the board, by the council, I should say, but by consensus. So moving forward on that, and there's like the next stage is design, which they've made some we made some progress on. I'm not on the design side, but it's moving forward.
That's awesome.
Yeah. With the target of end of the year and the Ocean Ring Fifthway.
Yeah. I just want to note the second annual bike rodeo coming up,
Oh, yeah.
which September 20th, right? Which I think is just great, just to I was thinking about that as we were talking about the bike ride. I think we're celebrating because, I mean, it was a year ago, went really fast, that kicked off, hey, let's do a bike rodeo. Chris spearheading that, and the bike rides have been really consistent, and then a group is doing a bike collective just to kind of get community members together, and I think the beautification board has already purchased tools.
The rec department.
Oh, I'm sorry, rec department has already purchased tools that the rec department, the city owns, but that they're going to be doing basically regular times at the rec center to have people come and talk about fixing your bikes and just being together in bike collectors. So I think it's worth celebrating that, because to have the second annual means that, you know, it really took off and it pulls people together in so many ways, and it, you know, proxy for our built environment conversations and awareness, and so many targets that I think it hits. So I think it's great that it's still going strong.
Yeah, I believe our first bike collective meeting is going to be on the 7th, Saturday the
Yeah.
7th. And we're going to get together and,
Yep.
actually, we're going to go over tools tomorrow. Are you going to go with us?
Yeah, I was gonna check it out. Yeah.
So tomorrow, we're going to go check out how many tools came into the rec department, that we have at our disposal. The rec department put up $2,000 for tools
Wow.
for us to
Yeah.
start this. It's
A
really.
lot of money.
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot of
really-
money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Josh is the one who's really spearheading this whole entire, and his wife. of
And his
course.
wife, right, he's on the rec board.
She's on the
yeah.
rec board.
Mhm.
And they've really been hitting it hard. They've got that $2,000 there. I think they spent 19 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
99% of the stuff is already here, so we're gonna go check it out tomorrow, in the afternoon on Thursday. We have a space behind the rec department where we can keep all these old bikes. I'm personally being hit up like mad for people who are getting rid of bikes. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Bob's Bicycle Shop is totally down with us. They want to give us all of their donated bikes. Bob's Bicycle Shop also wants to have, one of the technicians wants to join us and actually teach people how to work on their bikes. And he's got a collection of over 50 bikes that he just wants to bring and donate. So we're going to get together, on the 7th, and we've got to discuss how we're going to move all these bikes around, because we have too many right now. We have a bunch. And also, I'm not going to name specific names, but there's a art museum, and there's not many in our area. They'd like to use our bikes for a children's art installation. They'll have the kids like ride through paint and then ride on the canvas, like ride their bikes on the canvas. So they want to use some of our reused bikes.
Which need to have different tire treads.
Right, need to have pretty deep tire treads. So we're finding ways of reusing these bikes, which is really cool. There's also some ideas for art installations, temporary art installations with the used parts and so forth, because we've got mountains of wheels coming to us that I don't know what we're going to do. But we're the ones who should be technically in charge of this. We've got to figure out how we're going to melt them down, or how we're going to take them to the recycling plant. It's a good question for us to answer. So I'm super excited, just like you.
Well, part of the funding, I presume, you're going to wind up, from my experience, with quite a bit of basically used scrap steel. So you take it up to Rockledge there, and I don't know what the price of steel is now per pound, but if it's clean, which means you take the seats off and you take the pedals off and all that stuff, you should get a halfway decent price for it.
I hope so.
I will mention, Chris,
Yeah.
that the beginning of this, what it is the beginning, right? In the future, where this might go, and I know that a lot of cities have a bike share or a bike program where you can rent a bike and everything, where for our city that might not be as practical in some senses, but to have some bikes, and I don't know how expensive it would be. I know you can get a dog collar with a tracker in it, or how expensive those little GPS units are.
Right.
If you could hide that inside the frame of the bike,
Yeah.
you could just have them in the beaches or different areas. I don't know, as long as they were maintained.
Yeah, no,
in a
that
certain
would be
fashion.
awesome.
But, because I know that I've looked into it, and the amount of maintenance and upkeep with having those rented bikes and everything is a lot. But if we could find a more sustainable way of doing that,
Yeah.
just to keep it in your mind as an option for the future, might be something to think about down the road.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I know it was the case a decade or two ago. I'm not sure it still is. I don't know why not. The most prevalent crime in the city was bike theft. Kids will want to go from point A to point B. They see a bicycle. I had 5 bicycles stolen, mine. I recovered 2, I think.
That was before skateboards and.
Yeah, but the thing is, they want to get from point A to point
People actually
B.
went outside, John.
Huh?
Okay, people don't do that anymore. My bikes used to get stolen. I'm not as old as you are, but
I will say I've left my
they don't
bike
steal them
outside.
anymore.
That I've used for the bike rides, I left my bike out front of City Hall for the past 3 months, and no one has stolen it.
People do get stolen
They
bikes. I
do,
see
they
that
do,
on
but
the.
it's
on
kind
the-
of
Have you seen his
but-
bike?
Right, there you go.
I think the most likely is probably when the kids get out of school up at
Right.
Delora or Satellite and
Right.
they want to go down to Longoggers or something.
Right.
Instead of walking, they see somebody didn't lock their bike and
Right.
away they go. I've
I
had
grew
it
up-
stolen out of the garage and off the porch.
I grew up in Michigan, and people, because it's so cold, they leave their keys in the car, and there's so much joy riding of teenagers. I never did that, but people, I think it's I would agree with you, but I think there's this like holistic, like what does our community look like in terms of joy riding, whether that's on bikes and what that means for the community message. And one thing I just want to say, is it, workable for our city? I have never lived in a town or a city that is so bikeable. And that's just like strikes me. I used to live outside of Boulder, Colorado, which is a huge bike collective, and this is more bikeable than that. And I just feel like there's so many possibilities that would be great to see. But there's realism too about what would happen, and what does that mean?
My point was, though, if you had extra bikes that teens could ride and stuff,
Yeah.
why not? You paint them
Yeah.
international orange or something, and you leave a bunch at school, and you leave a bunch at the library or something, and basically it's, if you want to go from point A to point B, don't steal somebody's bike, take one of these, and wherever you leave it, the cops will come by and pick it up.
I mean, it would be nice on A1A, you got Hightower, and then you've got all the way down, to
Pelican.
Pelican Beach, and then, so they could go that direction and maybe from
Yeah, down
Satellite.
to
So
Karate
if you,
Park, yeah.
if you lost your bike or, or whatever, like you said, if you didn't have a ride, you could go from school, from Delora or Satellite, and then you could go home with it, and then you could bring it back the next day.
Or just drop
But
it
I don't know
off.
how that you would return it, or what's the fee, or is it any,
Well, that's what I was thinking, like a tracker, and one of those cheap dog.
I mean,
trackers.
even if they took it home and they kept it, that'd
Right.
probably be a great thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's what, if they needed a bike that badly,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you served your purpose,
That's true, too.
I think it'd be cool if we had each one tagged and with a number. and
Well, the
if
city
we-
issues bike licenses that nobody gets. They've got a tag, they record it.
Right.
I've always had them on my bike, so.
But if we had an app, I don't know, where you could say, hey, I've got bike number 365 in front of me, what's the combination to the lock? Do, my name is da-da-da, combination, boom.
Yeah.
Take it to where you're going, take a picture when you're done. I don't know if we have somebody who can do something like that, but that may seem.
The other thing is that we do live on the beach and things rust. Even my locks they start not to work because it's just getting rusted.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Any further board
I
comments?
love the idea though.
Got a couple of things. Number one, I've been harassing Nick. Microplastics is a problem, and not just in the ocean. In fact, I read a report, and the newspaper reported that the principal behind the report at UCF, they did a study of microplastics in crabs and oysters in Mosquito Lagoon, which is north of here, as the highest reported concentration of microplastics on the planet. No work that I can find has been done south of Mosquito Lagoon. And there is a state program to have citizen scientists do it. Now, there's videos on the internet to show you how to do it. It's very reproducible, but you do need some equipment. And that's the kind of thing I was thinking might be something of interest to, let's say, students at Delora or Satellite, and it might be something that if they needed, there's a special Erlenmeyer flask and a couple other little doohickeys you need, that this might be a project that the city could promote. because that's another pollutant. I don't think we really, and the problem is that they also, studies have done water tests on potable drinking water that came through the processing plants. And they're finding microplastic, primarily fiber. If anybody is wearing any, we probably all are, clothes that have any non-natural, other than cotton, linen, that kind of stuff, you're shedding these fibers. We're breathing an average of several a day, it appears. We drink it in the drinking water, and maybe the plastic's not bad, although I could see it being responsible for things like silicosis or whatever. But some of the chemicals that are used in making the plastic, there's residuals on it. Anyway, something that somebody can get their hair on fire about if they want to. Just thinking of the PFAS and PFOA business and what went on there. And I came up with one idea. We were talking about new GATs and things like that. The city passed a resolution to be 100% renewable or clean energy, I forget the term, by 2050. That's not going to happen by a few people going down to Lowe's and buying something. This is going to take a huge amount of effort. And there's at least one program I found by the Department of Energy that's actually studied. I found at least 2 studies that they funded or conducted. They didn't fund it, they did it. One was in Cleveland, one was in one of the cities in the Carolinas, I think, where they actually used data from satellites and LIDAR and all kinds of stuff, and came up, like in the case of Cleveland, it was something like the 15% of the buildings, of course they have large industrial areas, that have the most promising rooftops for solar could generate enough power to power the city. I don't think that's the case here. I think we're closer to 1-to-1 from my numbers. But the point is, that's the start of beginning to get an idea. And then there's other things to think about. As the temperature gets higher, people are going to run their air conditioners more. That's going to drive up the electric usage. People start driving electric cars. That's going to drive up electric usage. So if we want to be totally clean energy by 2050, how much is that really going to be, and how much can we generate internally, and how much do we have to get somehow else? And so it seems to me that some kind of a study to get things, really you need a plan to plan, so that we can come up with something, because a resolution without a plan to get to it is worse than useless. It's misguided.
John, if you'd like to meet with me and go over some stuff, I'd love that. I think that'd be a good start. And we could report back to the board as to, kind of the plan.
Okay.
And I think part of today is about that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the
I think
plan
that
to
could
plan
definitely
and
be
vetting, yeah,
something we could get John to marry, and
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to meet you two when you get together. I'd like to get with you guys.
Okay. Okay.
We can maybe do a small workshop just on that.
Okay,
If we
except,
wanna-
okay, if
the
the
sunshine,
two of
yeah.
us, then we have to notice it.
So if we want to do a workshop.
We can do, that's
on-
fine,
on
we can
on
do,
that.
we can do that.
Yeah.
cool. Any further board comments?
Yeah, this feeds into what John's talking about a little bit. Last meeting, I gave you guys a commercial solar project that was done and how the numbers worked and so on. So this, I wanted to give you for residential this week. And this kind of talks through the process of what the guy went through in terms of getting quotes and all of the process of getting a solar system installed and how it was profitable and so on. So yeah, the front page there is just some details about solar. Courtney, I guess, requested that I write like something for the Beachcomber, like an article. So that's why that's there. And then this kind of is going to feed into the GAT, right? So I don't know if I want to go into too much detail, but we can talk about whatever the GAT it is number. And then I think we could do on the website, I haven't really even looked at the website much, but maybe there's some stuff we can start putting some information on different posts in the website about solar. But really, the second two pages talk about the residential system that the guy installed and the process that he went through. So just wanted to give you some more information on that.
So this is so cool. So personal. So cool.
Yeah, I just installed my second installation of solar, so it'll be interesting to read that.
All right, any further board comments? I have a few more things. Is there any? No? Okay, so I just wanted to mention, we did a special bike ride for the National Night Out, which is on the 6th of August. It was a night ride. We posted it on our Facebook. It was a ride from Bob's Bicycle Shop and then over the bridge to the O'Galley area where they blocked off the streets. If you don't know, the National Night Out is a night where the police officers rent certain areas, and they'll have bands come to that area and meet with people. It's also kind of a see something, say something campaign. So we were involved with that. I've got a shirt, I think. It should be. But maybe I'll pull some straws from a cap or something and see who wins it. But we were part of that. Julie went, and the new young lady, what's her name? Alexis, she was there too. It was a great turnout. Hopefully we can do an even bigger turnout next year, but we had an escort, we had a police escort riding our bikes over the bridge, and also Bob's Bicycle Shop's big van was blocking us. So I'll need to do a better job of letting people know, but also we had terrible weather too. So that really did put a damper on how many people we had going over the bridge, but other than that, it was well covered by the police department. They were there. We still had a lot of people who drove to the event, so it was really good.
How many people had to walk their bike over the bridge?
Nobody. And we had a little girl who was just charging it. She was so pumped about it. Her family actually took her the day before and had her practice the bridge.
How old is she?
7.
Oh, my
So
God.
she practiced going up the bridge the day before for the bike ride. And she charged it and got over it, no problem. No problem. And even full speed on the way down too. I was surprised.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that.
So it was great. Any other than that? I do want to mention the youth presentations thing. We were supposed to have a youth presenter tonight. We don't have one, but we have the application done. You can feel free to look at this. It's real simple. I've introduced it to the school where I work. They're very interested. I know Jen and the homeschooling kids are super interested in doing this. So we should have some people next month who are willing to do it. Also,
You contacted Councilwoman Brzezicki?
no.
She's a teacher in elementary.
Well, we'll have to try to do that.
Oh, we're going to have Levi do it, the first one.
Yeah, no, not right now. He's not.
Not
here.
ready.
No, we didn't get it together in time.
Oh, gotcha.
So one other thing we have is Mindy Gibson has this new wood burning machine. That's amazing. That makes all these plaques and so forth. And we're going to find some used wood and actually print our plaques for this
Oh, gotcha.
on the pieces of wood.
There you
I have lots
go.
of pallets at the community garden.
Pallets, there we go.
Lots
We'll
of
use-
pallets.
There you
we'll
go.
use pallets.
That's pretty cool.
So that's
Yeah.
something that is exciting and coming up. I have a project that I'm working on with a young kid at my school. We're working on proposing a sustainable coffee shop. He really wants to open a coffee shop. So we're going to do all this research,
Cool.
and hopefully he'll
Satellite
present-
Beach?
No, at Verity Eco School. So hopefully
Oh, gotcha.
he'll present that information to us later this year.
Yeah.
So we already do have.
Wait,
some
where's the
people.
coffee shop gonna be?
Well, I'd like it to be here.
I want it to be called Surfside Perk. Can I
Yeah,
serve the Surfside
right,
Perk?
coffee shop.
Surfside Perk.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
All right. So
Good one.
at that point, I hope I've touched on everything.
One question about,
Yeah.
so are we good to go then for September? Because I could just ask Levi if.
That'd be
he's-
awesome.
Okay, and
Can you
then,
get him?
probably, I mean, if, unless, yeah, his usual conflict is if he's running over to Portland for like a deposition.
Yeah.
That's it, but yeah,
When can I check in with you?
next week. And also, do you have a PDF attachment or whatever of that, or?
I just get this one.
Oh,
You just
there you
take
go.
this one.
Perfect,
If anybody wants to look at it, we can just.
yeah.
You want to look at it before you?
Yeah, if you have other copies.
All right. Any further public comment? No? All right. I'd like to get on to this exercise that we're going to be getting into. As a few of you know, I just finished a degree in project management, so I'm kind of interested in formulating ideas, getting ideas out of our heads and onto the paper. So I've got 4 things I'd like to do, and I'm realizing that we're getting pretty late. We're a little long in the tooth. We're starting at 8 o'clock basically, so I'm not sure how far we'll get. First off, I'd like to quickly discuss past GATs. And, well, I was hoping we could do it on the board together.
If everybody wants to come down, I can.
Yeah, wait, before we move, I'm going to have Nick spearhead that, and maybe I'll pencil some stuff on the dry erase board, and then we can capture that with the camera, so we can see what we went over. Then, after that, I'd like to do a Crawford slip method, which is a method where we'll go over some of the proposed drainage treatments. You'll have time to read through them, and also write down a few more ideas, but I'll explain that further. Then we're going to try to prioritize it, because we've been talking about prioritizing. I found a little clever, fun $100 test, which will help us kind of like divide which way we want to go with things. So we'll prioritize which events we want to do. And then I have another exercise that's a enough ranking, which I'll explain further. But each one of these things I'm seeing, we're looking at 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's a little long. As if we're having fun, if it's going somewhere, I'd like to continue this maybe the next time too. If it's not working out and we need to go a different route, then we'll discuss it at that point.
I might suggest a workshop too, if a workshop would be, a
Yeah.
good time to maybe meet.
We definitely frame this meeting as a workshop, so.
Yeah.
Well, or another.
Yeah, no, I was saying maybe we should set like, we're gonna cut it off at 9 or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm happy
Yeah,
to do
we
that.
actually have something to do at 9.
At 9?
Yeah, I think, I think that's probably, but
Okay.
I think that this is important, and maybe we should plan to have it continue on to the next meeting, too, yeah?
Well, let's see how it goes.
Just quickly, so process comment. I'm wondering too, the thing I keep coming back to in my mind is about our role in relation to the city council and staff and maybe even other people around the county who are doing things like this. So conceptually, I feel like that's where we would go tonight with those exercises. I think are great. I think that's a great set of steps. Conceptually, what are we looking at in terms of priorities? Then there's like an operational piece. Who are we as a board? Do we have a shared understanding of our particular role in that work, which is just one piece of the work? So that's either maybe a second meeting or we pepper it throughout this conversation. I just want to put that on the table.
Yeah, I would definitely, before we start the Crawford slip method, I'd like to almost quickly redefine our GATs, like what are they? I mean, we have a definition, but I'd just like to do a little shorthand of where our end goal is with these GATs. So we're on the same page today in this focus. I'd also like to ask you, Jen, to help me analyze the data once we collect these slips. Maybe we'll move to the table over there and try to start organizing it so that we can go into further discussion. At the time when we're doing that further analyzing, I've brought some board games. I brought Chutes and Ladders and Uno and some card games. So while we're looking at that, maybe the rest of us can be playing games or just hanging out, and we can see how far we can go with the data that we received. I think we're going to receive get a lot of great ideas.
Well, and just be open, so Chris, you know, so part of my day job is I do strategic planning with boards, so I'll just put that out there. And so I think I would put it out to the rest of this board if everyone's okay, if like Chris and I kind of tried to theme things just for everyone's like streamlining process, but that, you know, agreement on a process is a good idea, I think, for the group, if everyone's comfortable with that.
Well, I'm definitely reaching out to you because you're an implementation scientist,
Right.
basically, right? So,
Yes, but, I mean,
So I want to,
Well, you mentioned that you were thinking of 2.25 hours.
yeah,
Obviously, you don't have that tonight.
No.
Obviously, you've thought of each, you've got 4 steps. Is that 1 step, 2 steps, 1.5 steps, 2.5 steps?
I foresee right now that we'll make it through a quick discussion of the past GATS, super quick. That may take 20 minutes. We can define the reason for the GATS in maybe 5 minutes. The CSM, or the craft slip method, will take 15 minutes to do. That's where you'll read over different ideas that we have and kind of adjust them, if you will. And the next item would be the $100 test, which would be about 30 minutes, I think that would take us.
And
We
you've already
may-
run over your hour.
We may make it to that.
I think we should maybe just discuss, I'll make a proposal that we do count this as a multi-meeting kind of endeavor. And set goals for each meeting, so the goal today may be to get through that, so that gives you a good foundation on where people are understanding the GATS, and then set a expectation or agenda for the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Now, does the process, some processes build in that you tend to build momentum. So if you cut the process and try to start again, the momentum's evaporated.
Yeah, well,
Does this depend on that or not?
Well, I think everyone has times they can, but I think it'd be good for ideally Jazzy and Dylan to be here, since they're some of our longer-term institutional knowledge on the board. So, who else isn't here tonight? I'm sorry, I'm not good.
and I texted him, he's in South Florida.
Okay, and is Nick and Mornoni no longer with us on the board?
Correct.
Okay, very well. I just haven't seen him in a while, so I wanted to confirm that. Okay.
All right, so shall we move to the table?
Nick, could you move some of those mics in front of you to the table so I can still catch the discussion? And I will turn a couple of these over.
All right, I apologize for this lady. All right, this one stays.
There's a couple of them that are longer than the other, and I'm just turning these mics so that.
I'll just phrase this now as well. You throw your... I was gonna say you give it, I was gonna stop.
I'll stick it up on the board, and
I think how it's doing this part complete.
okay.
Just the number, computer.
Okay, but I'll probably just,
Left hand through right hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I have pictures when he was young, when he was actually, I
Okay.
gloves for him.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of student players who, battle.
Somebody banged on the door?
No. He wasn't kidding. Okay. All right, Chris, if you're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, so I'll go over the 20 GATs we've already been working on as part of the first 5 years. Number one, convert municipal buildings to solar within the next 2 decades. It says convert all municipal buildings to solar within the next 2 decades. So that while striving to make City Hall and the Public Works building run completely off solar by 2022. So that's kind of a twofold there, where we've done City Hall, and Public Works will be part of the new fire building, so that should work nicely.
So if they can afford it.
When they can afford it.
Is there going on Jackson Avenue, Jackson Street?
Yeah, they will, like they talked about. John, thank you for being on that board, by the way. It's really,
That one was incomplete?
that one is technically incomplete, yes.
Incomplete, and why?
Because funding.
Things that get interesting.
All right, establish a financially sustainable community garden at DeSoto Park, completed. Number two.
Complete. All right, C, and that one's done, okay? Number 3?
Right.
Just a word that reminds us what these are?
Okay.
Yeah.
The GAT, yeah, what is solar?
PV,
Solar.
or solar.
Oh, yeah, solar.
Number 1, solar?
Number 1, solar.
Garden.
There we go.
It's like a Pearl Jam 10, all one-word songs.
Okay.
But what percentage though? I mean, we're, what, 25%?
Right, I guess you could say that it's ongoing, but we're at 25%.
It's just incomplete, kind of like, yes.
Oh, well, for
We
solar,
actually made movement.
yes, for solar,
Then what was the gap?
solar says complete all municipal buildings
In 2 decades.
in 2 decades.
But we have done about, what, 25%?
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so yeah, about 25%.
We're
That's
halfway
a
into.
pretty good amount. How many are there? Roughly, we're just gonna.
So,
do
I mean,
round figures.
you have Public Works and Fire, which will be a new building, DRS, PD,
That's it.
See,
City
the
Hall.
difference is that the DRS is a huge.
Right.
Well,
That-
but this is the second to it, so you've,
33,
I'd say, no, I'd say 20%.
20%? Okay, 20%.
But our short-term,
Makes everybody feel.
5-year goal was City Hall and Public Works, right? And we're about halfway into that.
By 2022,
We're
yeah.
about halfway into that time period, and we're halfway done. So I think
Right.
we're on track.
However, like we always said, living document, right? So Public Works is no longer going to be Public Works by 2022. It will be Public Works and Fire. It'll be a new building. So that will have to be
Oh, there's
retooled.
Public Works is going over there on Jackson.
It is going to be teamed up with the new building.
Wow.
What are they gonna do with over here?
Well, I haven't,
Yeah,
TBD, we'll say TBD.
Educational, we already talked about it. We're gonna have the Sampson's Island boat right there, we're gonna have the environmental.
At the fire.
Kayaks are gonna go in the big fire.
That's what I want,
Rocks,
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have rental kayaks there. That's
Mark was
what-
also asking about the Public Works facility too, what's going to happen to Public Works. So both of those is another conversation. Number 3, number 3.
Real quick, one thing I want us to focus on is the why, because we're talking about future, and we
Right.
need to know what we can actually implement.
Funding. Number 3 is achieve LED equivalent certification for at least one building. We're almost there. I think we're 90%
Well, it's supposed that's a goal if we can afford it.
in the new building. Yeah, in the new Public Works building, we should be there.
90% complete?
Well,
No,
with,
no, it's no complete.
well, this building's mostly LED.
Get it processed.
Oh, LED or lead? So it's a
Oh, this is lead, sorry. There's 2 E's, yeah.
It's LED.
Which is the new fire, which is the new fire one. So it's 0, that's 0%.
So we got
And again, funding is usually.
Funding. I got good news for number 4. Install at least one electric vehicle charging station at a municipal building. That is 100% complete.
Well, it's 200% complete.
That's true, it's a dual station,
Pelican.
No,
right here. Pelican is like stage 0. It technically didn't count because it was already there. But John's right, yeah, it's 2, dual stage. So 200% complete.
200%.
That was our first thing we did on our board.
I did the gardens first.
All right, quickly, next.
Number 5, employ zero-escaping practices at all municipal building grounds. That is 5% complete, maybe? There's a little bit at each one here and there, but not enough to really say that we're complete. There's a lot of municipal buildings.
The new building, right? That's part of the.
That will be in the new building.
design.
That'll be in front of here, in front of City Hall. There'll be little pieces in front of the, well, actually, there's a little piece over at Rec, so put a 1 in front of it, call it 15.
Okay, and why? You get to show them.
Well, there's maintenance, there's funding, there's mostly maintenance and funding.
I think probably has to do with Public Works is gonna wind up doing this.
And that's the maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, Public Works.
On all, just another way of saying funding.
But on what?
Well, yeah, it's funny, but it's funding specifically allocated to staff. So you can almost also say staff time too, is in part of that?
But that means like native plants and things, you just mean like
Yeah,
friendly native.
on all city facility municipal
Bubbles
buildings.
is gonna have geoscaping.
But that's not a city
It
facility.
is.
Replace number 6, replace all fossil fuel-based city administrative vehicles with electric vehicles. Again, it says replace all fossil fuel-based city administrative vehicles. Right. So we have the City Hall. We have a hybrid at fire now, but that's not all, right? So, all the police vehicles, they're not administrative, right? That's not administrative. Would Carl's truck that he uses be administrative? Yeah, so that's gonna be another one.
I'd say if it's not fire, if it's not police, it's administrative.
So rec
Or
is,
Public Works too.
that's not administrative.
Do you know how many of those?
Maybe Allen's truck might
But
be.
see, that's the thing, yeah, well,
I'd say 50%.
Yours is 50%.
I'd say 50%. Because you got Allen, no one at rec has a vehicle yet, and when they do, it will be. But, fire has one, we have one, and
now the thing is, you've got, offsetting that is that Public Works does have, don't they have, no, they don't have any electric cars. do they?
No,
They're
no.
gasoline cars.
And I don't know if we want to, so citizens on patrol is a whole other question too, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's not administrative, again, that's function.
I don't think that's 50% complete.
Well, if fire has one, we have one, and Carl has one that isn't, and then Allen has one that isn't, that's 2 and 2.
So is it a matter of time that we have?
That's all the.
Administrative, I think, I mean, Grace, can you think of any other administrative vehicles?
Well, there are 2 in fire department.
There's
because,
2?
The chief, assistant chief has one also.
Okay, so that's down to the less.
Yeah, and then I would
30.
say, Allison Jane has a truck, a
Yeah.
work truck, so,
Maybe 33% then?
yeah.
So about 33, somewhere around 30 to 50, somewhere in there. The reason for that, again, I'd say funding, right? And then attrition. We have to wait for things to go before we can buy new ones. Yeah, time. Number 7, plan and standardize the schedule for free public workshops. That is 100% complete and ongoing. Rain or shine, if people here or they're not. Still doing them.
The
Assess.
reason why is because
Assess, identify, and prioritize city vulnerabilities to climate change threats and stressors. I think this has a lot to do with the Stetson project and the sea level rise studies and things of that nature. I don't know, I mean, that's always ongoing, really, but, John, what do you think, 50%? Because ongoing,
I'd say as far as identifying
vulnerability.
vulnerabilities and stressing, we're not gonna repeat the Stetson project, the technical part. It's
Right,
done.
that's done.
I call it.
Do you think it's done?
It's one of those things that,
It's ongoing.
I mean, we
What
can
it-
identify, but right now,
Yeah, okay.
we documented,
So that's complete.
we wouldn't, let's put it this way, I don't think it's smart of the city to spend any more money on it.
Right, we've gone down that road.
That's what-
Now we need to implement the changes based on that,
yeah.
which is another portion of that, but that's not what that says. That says assess, identify, and prioritize. Okay, that's fair. Allow for better citizens access to public transportation and ensure that 1 mile of city streets is designed to follow the principles of complete streets. So complete streets would be the one for that. And actually Liz is working on that right now in Jackson. The Jackson project will move towards being a complete street as part of that project. It's underway, but it's not
Okay.
done, it's incomplete.
Do we have a good chance of being complete?
It will be complete,
Okay.
within our green achievement target timeframe too, which is good.
Is that a 5-year thing, the timeframe?
I think it's within 5 years. At least it'll be executing.
What about the new communities like Montecito? They don't have any, like, you can't go through them, you
I
know?
don't think they have complete streets. Maybe inside Montecito, but I'll look into that. That's a good question.
And like the new community that's gonna be built on,
Would that have a complete street in the 27 acres? Is that kind of what you're asking? I mean, we could kind of talk to them about that. That's interesting.
I don't think any street is a complete street.
Cassie is almost
it's a
a,
complete street.
Cassie almost
Yeah,
is.
Sorry, what is it?
It's basically about a certain amount of space for both a biking lane that's separate and protected. It's about usually some sort of traffic circle for flow.
Mhm.
There's a definition with like 12 criteria or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't, as far as I see, I don't think our town has.
We don't have a complete street yet.
Yeah.
But Cassie is pretty close.
Like DeSoto, I mean.
It's got the stormwater, it's got the vegetation, it's got the separate sidewalks. and
Yeah.
South Patrick.
It doesn't have the curb
Yeah.
separating it.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, moving on. I know Chris wants us to kind of run through these. So complete streets, incomplete.
Separate from not just on the road.
Improve ecosystem health, determine the current amount of city shoreline with mangrove coverage, and convert 500 square feet of shoreline to begin to restore appropriate levels of mangrove coverage. This is, so we've determined it, we haven't converted any.
We've got the
We're
money.
growing them.
We're growing them,
At the community garden.
but I'd say incomplete.
In process.
The hardest part is residents with seawalls, and we do have a program designed to get them there. It's gonna be a process.
So growing plants?
The big issue, the why, is seawalls.
Seawalls.
Mangroves versus seawalls, plants versus people's willingness to change, you know. We do have 11, which is pilot a compost project in conjunction with waste management. I might actually bring that back to the board to change language a little bit, because waste management may not end up partnering. That may not happen within the 5 years. We may have to pilot a compost project ourselves within the city for residents, and we may have to change that, because partners would be the limiting factor in compost.
You have to change language.
Yeah. 12, city-hosted events, departments, and buildings will phase out the use of petroleum-based plastic bags, balloons, utensils, and cups, and begin using bio-based products, straws, and made from plant-based materials such as soy. So this is right in line with Resolution 1014. So it is underway. I'd say we've done the hard first step, 33% of it, and we've created the green team, and we met, and we went through council and all that, so. Obtain provision of dark sky status certification. We changed that to starry sky. So starry sky is a lot closer, but still isn't complete. I'd say 50%, 50% there. Convert all municipal buildings, here's the LED one, lighting both interior and exterior to more efficient, longer lasting LED. Again, that's all municipal buildings. Maybe every building has 20, 30, 40%, depending on the building, some more than others. It's 14. LED lighting, I'd say 33% across all buildings. These are LED, the ones across the hall are LED.
Are these LED or are these?
The ones in the lobby, the ones in the lobby are LED.
Okay, these are compact.
These are compacts.
Is this an attrition thing?
This is an attrition thing, yeah, this is absolutely through attrition. However, we do have ABM doing some of this, I believe,
Isn't part of that contract? to go
as part of their
along?
contract as well. So maybe we could bump it up to 50% if you want to.
Well, it just, actually, the point here is, when that contract's executed, it should be 100%, right, according to the contract?
I don't think it includes all city lights. Some like parking lot lights may not be included, some other things may not be included. Skate park lighting, I think, is.
Is this interior lighting or all lighting?
This says all, I believe, all municipal building lighting, interior and exterior.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
These are very ambitious green achievement targets.
Well, the point is, it sounds like the interior will be taken care of.
That's 50%.
Probably more than.
Maybe more, but we're not there yet, right? So. But yeah, by the end of the ABM contract, that should all be before the end of the
Of course, the real challenge
first
is
5
going
years.
to be the fields.
Yeah, yeah. Which I have some thoughts on that for later. 15, partner with the one city commercial
Every spectator
entity.
gets a
Well, there's really cool stuff with like Wi-Fi and lights and stuff, but then we can talk about that later. Partner with the commercial entity within the city to help research and build a solar installation that either partly or fully powers their business. This is the one that Steve was working on, and we were looking at the salon, I think, last.
Yeah, I met with her, and
That doesn't look like it's
she
gonna
wanted
get,
to, and the building was fine, sun for enough panels in the sun, but
yeah.
financially, she went and talked to her accountant.
Couldn't do it.
And you gotta have enough write-offs that you can get the 30% tax credit. You
Wasn't
know,
there.
so where it would kick in and be
Okay.
feasible, so
What?
that's how it work.
I thought that was part of the deal with,
Doubles.
cells.
Doubles has the potential, but they don't have to do it right away. So
Isn't it in the contract to do it in a certain period of time?
that, or they have to pay a buyout, I think. There's like a buyout option of hundreds of thousands, I don't know, but a lot of money to buy out. I think there's an option for them in there. I'll have to reread that. But they don't have to do it immediately, but they have to make sure that they're solar ready so that they can hook up.
Well, then I think because the point is if there's a buyout, then you would use the money from the buyout like a.
To go fund it for somebody else.
Go to somebody else and say, hey, do you want solar?
Oh, that's a good point.
So
So-
I'd say, in process.
Yeah.
In other words, we don't need to do anything else except enforce what's in place. And if-
Yeah, incentivize them for us. Try to incentivize them. Which I do have a meeting with them. I want to see where they're at in the next couple of weeks.
Well, hopefully you get one more than one, you know.
Right, we don't want to end at one, we want to keep going too. Collaborate with KBB, Keep Our Beautiful, to coordinate, sponsor, and perform regular scheduled beach cleanups as evident of the International Coastal Cleanup on the 21st, and the ongoing shoulder cleanups and all other cleanups, and how clean our beaches are. I go there quite often, and it's hard to find trash sometimes, which is good. So I'll say that's complete
Yeah,
and ongoing, but complete.
especially with milling.
Yeah, especially with the milling project. 17, develop an internal sustainability review for all city buildings that help to streamline future construction and management of operations and make this service available to homeowners. That I have not started, so I'll admit that's incomplete. There's some other things kind of going on, but not there yet. We've done some reviews for our buildings, but not enough to the point where we're creating anything for that.
On the KBB, wouldn't you say we, if when milling's installed, we have exceeded that?
I'll say, kind of like the garden, complete but ongoing. Like, it's complete, but we don't ever need to finish that.
I guess what I'm thinking is it's kind of like the, what did we put 200% charging station?
Yeah.
We've exceeded
Just
what we said we were.
dial it up.
Good 11 on that one?
Just dial it up a little bit and, yeah, I mean, you could, either way, it is definitely complete.
C plus.
So, A plus plus.
Completed plus.
So-
KBB plus plus plus.
Okay, number 17 is incomplete, not started.
18, identify locations within the Indian River Lagoon that are suitable for development of oyster beds. That's the grant that I wrote to Sizzler. I'd say it's 10% there. We have the contract, we have the funding, we're mobilizing, but we haven't done any boots in the water yet.
Need boots.
Time.
Yeah.
Time to-
Time. 19, test and track synthetic fertilizer concentrations within the city's runoff so that the city may better gauge nutrient loading into the Indian River Lagoon. After working with Courtney on this one, we were looking at different levels, and we were gonna probably want to partner with a higher level entity to do some real testing beyond our capabilities as a city, because we want to get really good data, maybe applied ecology or some kind of a group that can facilitate that. So I think, again, funding, partners, and our ability to do that type of in-depth monitoring at that level that we want to do, so that we get really good data.
Isn't that a potential lagoon project?
Potential lagoon project, funding from IRL. I think that could be.
Work with, actually, it seems that UCF's been doing a fair amount of work in lagoon.
Okay. That could be
I
good.
think more on mosquito lagoon, but if FIT's not interested, then,
All right. Last but not least, design and implement soft infrastructure techniques to help control and filter stormwater runoff. I mean, I'm gonna give that one 200%. We have DeSoto Pond. I mean, that's the softest infrastructure you can to, control and filter runoff. There's a BAM layer in there. There will be native plants eventually. There's the bioswale, there's the, the grasses that we put into the retention ponds, the mangroves, the
read
native
again
plants.
what the guy says.
Design and implement soft infrastructure techniques to help control and filter stormwater runoff. I think rain barrels also fall into that category. So those are just complete and ongoing. I think until we get a rain barrel in every house and a bioswale in every backyard.
Why is that? You can get them for $10 a piece at Terry Laboratories on Ellis Road, brand new.
Did you really get that?
Alloy inside them.
Yeah.
They're absolutely beautiful. You can make docks out of them. My brother's, he wants me to buy some. We're gonna make floating docks.
Oh, cool.
Out of them.
You should make a floating surf walkway. Have you seen that? Where people make
Yeah,
a walkway
those
out to the ocean, so you can go and just walk out to a
That
wave.
is-
Walk away.
I've only thought about that in my mind.
I was gonna make a raft and float in the middle of it.
No,
that
you
would
make
be
a
a
walkway
great
from the
idea.
shore.
All right,
just
so
walk out there.
that takes us to all 20.
That's awesome. So that last one, the reason why we got 200% was because of.
I mean,
You've done such a good job.
why do we get so much?
Yeah.
Because of, well, because it was a priority with our city and how it's going to be impacted by sea level rise. So all the resiliency studies that we've done and,
It's federally mandated. Right, wasn't it?
well, I mean, to do the Soto Pond,
Actually, yes, grant funding is the reason that happened.
that's true. That's
It would
all,
not have happened without it.
was it my project or the pond project? They're all grant funding, yeah. So grant funding for that one, yeah.
Real quick, can I go back to the straws? Incomplete, 3% complete. Why is that? We just
Oh,
did 3
which one, which number is that?
Number 12.
Watch the cable.
Sorry.
So so that's the green team, that's resolution 1014. Why is it only there?
Yeah.
Well, we have to determine what is, mission critical and what is superfluous before we can, really execute that on every department.
Priorities. Need priorities.
Yeah, we need to prioritize and implement
You need time to implement.
and time, yeah. But this is all city hosted events, departments and buildings. I mean, that's a big scope. So, I mean, events, yeah, we got events.
Yeah.
We're doing events. Departments and buildings, that's the other, 66%.
Okay. And we need stars. We changed the language for stars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're good on that. We just need to do a few retrofits on some signage, some timers, and a few other things on city lights to make that happen.
Okay, cool.
Can I make an overall comment, just, at the risk of
Yeah.
diverting everyone in that well. So I think I think we all agree that these are all good and contributing to our overall vision. I find though that, in all transparency, so like I said, my day job is like strategic planning. So I find that sometimes it can be difficult for groups to move together if we don't have like a theory of change, or that's what strategic plans do, where how is the list contributing to shared outcomes, aggregate outcomes that work together to go towards. So we can check off a list of things, which is great. I think we all agree they're all good things, but do we have a shared understanding of how they work together for a greater outcome, greater interim precondition outcomes?
Well,
For example,
Their genesis is, we have a strategic plan. And that was
Do we?
developed, yes, that was sustainability plan, that was made a matrix started out by saying, what are the areas? Transportation, energy, water, I forget what they were, but anyway, there's like 5 of them. I remember the last one was quality of life, which is kind of unusual, but it's there. And then we made a list, and each one of them said, what are key things here? And we put them in. And this was all done by Lindemann working with some of the students and us. Then
Yeah.
it was how you prioritize these. And that gets interesting because some things are easy, like put in a charging station. Take $1,000, you put it in, you're done. You know, then there's others that are just extremely expensive or difficult, like understanding pollution in groundwater, very complex problem. And so there were 2 factors that we've considered: ease of completion and cost.
Right, but before you get down that road, though, I guess my point is, because I think that's important, but my point is that those things are good things, we can all agree. But that's actually not in the traditional sense of strategic plan, which shows you how it strategically builds on each other to a broader outcome. They're good things. There was a survey that identified components that we should work on with resident input, right? Residents and experts and everyone say these 5 things are what we should focus on. How for this city do they work together, and how do we define each step in the outcome? So I look on this list and I say there's things that are about awareness, there's things that are about infrastructure, there's things about built environment and reduction of pollution. But what are we trying to capture in terms of an outcome, a shared outcome? I think of it in terms of awareness, action, aggregate change. What does that mean for the city in the long run? Because we could keep chipping these things off, but it doesn't necessarily give us a decision-making algorithm for what to do next.
Jennifer, if I may?
Yeah.
Mark, would you rather?
You go first.
Okay, so I think sustainability and resiliency, right? So becoming resilient so that we will be able to adapt to change is kind of, that's one of the one of the underlying kind of benefits of all these, how they all interconnect, is that the 5 targets that John talked about, the quality of life, the energy, transportation, stormwater, and land use, and all those are part of it. But like you're saying, what's the ending driving goal? I would say it's resiliency. If you were to pick one word to kind of...
Yes, that's a big vision goal.
It's a big vision goal, right.
Actually, it would be sustainability because resiliency is part of sustainability.
Right.
And those
Not
are big
resilient or
goals.
not sustainable.
Those are big goals, but that doesn't give us a decision-making algorithm on how you get to smaller goals that lead into that. Like each step of the program, because we're talking about exactly, like I think you made a comment, like, or somebody did.
Yeah, think of 10 years, think of 2030.
And so resilience, but do we have a shared understanding about what that means in 50 years and 20 years and 10 years? And do we have a shared understanding for what we do in the next 12 months that contributes to that in a really pound-for-pound leverage way now? Can we piece together all those steps? So I agree, all these things are perfect, they're great, I would vote for them. But it doesn't necessarily help me, I feel, as a board member to understand what I do next to fit into the algorithm, how they're all building into our
I just had to say it's difficult to fit into any algorithm because there's almost 3 things that, as a staff, working on these things that I've noticed that might help. You're looking at what's right in front of you that has to be done today,
Sure.
right? You know, what do we need to do to make changes to keep ourselves going forward, and then making sure that we can adapt to a storm that's coming, or, you know, the public works gas pump needs to be changed out. You know, there's all these things that happen that are right in front of you, and then there's the long-term things,
Right.
and then there's kind of these intermediary things right in the middle.
Hardest for boards.
And I think that it's the low-hanging fruit, based on that matrix that John talked about, which again is on the website, and if you haven't looked at the plan, look at the plan. If you haven't looked at the resiliency study that came before that, that is a lot of help too. But the low-hanging fruit is what can we do with the money that we have and the time that we have and the amount of staff that we have,
Yeah,
which again is why.
A little bit, because the 2 factors we used was how hard is it, and how important is it? And they were kind of
difficulty.
You know, you can have something that's, if it's important and easy, man, you go do that.
Sure, yeah,
If it's hard and expensive,
right,
you may need to wait, and then you've got that in between that is,
right.
you know,
Too
easy
fast
to
to
do,
put
but,
it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so, that's the way
Yeah.
we build it.
Well, all boards, I'll just tell you, and all boards I've ever worked on it with and been on, struggle with the middle. And I guess I want to put that out to us, which is, we all usually have consensus on long-term resiliency and sustainability. Low-hanging fruit, which is immediate and important, are also clear, usually. In the middle, though, how that all ties together, and if we're talking long-term, that's harder. And that's where a strategic plan theory of change, the blueprint for those like 0 to 10 years, that's harder. And a shared understanding of that, I guess, is what I would propose.
I might just say that maintenance and having things that are maintenanceable
I know,
and planning on what can we maintain with the staff and
Right.
support that we have, and it's kind of, well, I can't implement this yet because I don't have the staff or ability to maintain that project if we did get it off the ground.
Right.
So it's almost prioritizing in some way through that lens.
Well, also, Jennifer, I think that what we did, like, for example, the garden that my son and I, we took, kind of, we pushed on that, because I think what we did was, we took one of those, because it's like a working board, you either take it and you run with it, and you go, okay, I want to take that one. We had somebody else take the other one, the stars. Jazzy took that, and so, in the bike, what we're doing is we're trying to take these individually maybe, or a team effort, and try to do something like you guys are talking about, getting together and working on like something, and then you make those steps.
So it's things that we can do.
Things that we can't do.
And things that you're inspired to do, I think is what Dave's kind of point was, is that as an individual board member, you might find a gap that you want to see
Right.
completed. You will take that on as a board member and work with staff to achieve that.
So
All right,
just to
but
summarize.
is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry, Mark.
I'm on 2 nonprofit boards.
Right, right,
Okay, each one of them has what I call a mission statement.
right.
Okay, is it that mission statement you're thinking about, is the overriding driver?
That's important. I'm talking mostly though about a theory of change for the board's theory of how change happens in the long term. So just to summarize what you're all saying, I think to define ourselves as a working board, to generate and develop what can we do now, I think that's great. And if we could talk more about that in our subsequent meetings, that'd be great. If we want to move into how these all tie together to longer term, that's a bit of a deeper, more specific theory of change conversation that might help.
Let me suggest, I may have tried that without appreciating maybe what I was doing. I called it the end game.
Yeah.
If things go as they're said to be done, as we project is going to happen, they're already saying the plan for 2100 is 8.5 feet of sea level rise. That is 2/3 of the dry land in this city, okay? Satellite Beach will eventually consist of, if it doesn't happen before, A1A with high rise on both sides. I have seen it on the Gulf Coast, in Clearwater Beach, Sanibel, you go up and down, it's all the same, okay?
All due respect,
Yes.
1 minute. All due respect, just one more minute.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay. And I said, if that's going to be the end,
Yeah.
how do we get there and survive? How do we enjoy this piece of land until we can't anymore? And I went through step by step, and I said, what are the community values? We don't want to be forcing people out. We don't want to gentrify, but we don't want to turn into a slum. And so there were certain principles that you would apply to take you through it. Is that the type of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, shared understanding of longer-term outcomes and how each of your steps contribute to that, which makes it a little bit easier than to leverage each step that you do in the short term.
Because what I ended up with when I said, this is the way I see
Right,
the city having to progress,
right.
I then came up with a bullet list and said, these are the principles that will,
And
tell you what, I'll send you the document.
Chris, before we go, I want to hear from Mark real quick.
I'll be quick, real quick, I'll almost throw in, it's also true, I'm a history major who became a lawyer, so I love this, because I jumped on this horse midstream, and also things where we have a goal and law and how we're applying our even make sense to my brain. But I mean, to me, what I see is we're a group of citizens who is working with our elected and staff, city governments. We're kind of like in between, like a midwife between the city government and the rest of the citizens who may have a generalized interest in these issues, but aren't in the position that we are here. But what I look at this is, and I think I remember when I went to the board, I read, and I wish I could recite them all, like those things you talk about, which include quality of life, which I think is really important, and I'm glad that it's in there. I view this as like 20 specific things that are pointing in that direction. And what we're looking at here are things that we can do as a city to kind of role model. Because if everyone was doing this, it would really, really achieve those things that we want to do. Now, we can't require people to zero-scape their yards, and my house is not totally, but I mean, to push people in that direction, to role model people to move in that direction, and also to have some tangible effect. And having solar power on our city buildings, although it's not nearly the effect it would have if everyone in the city was solar powering, there's some actual benefit of that, but it's more, I think, pointing people in the direction where we're trying to collectively go. I feel like that's what we're trying to do here, in the long term. And I don't know, I like that we have stuff to work for, because I agree, like I'm really excited about the oyster thing. That's where I can kind of fit in. I feel like it's helpful to have a framework to work within. The last thing I'm going to say is about what John was saying. I mean, the year 2100. I mean, I'll be 118 if I'm still alive then. I've got some. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I have some faith in humanity and engineering that we're not necessarily going to be at that point. But it starts through people, raising their consciousness about what's going on. And I feel like that's what, in a small way, in our small city, we're trying to do here.
You may be 118, but your kids will be 25.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's but I'm saying, like, I'm pointing out that's so far. If you think back to when, like my grandfather died at 98 in April of this year. He grew up on a farm with a mule, and was the first one in his family to graduate from high school, and then he was working with putting rockets off here. I mean, humanity can accomplish a lot in a lifetime. That's all I'm saying.
It's a good plan.
I will just to keep everybody on the same page. They are built environment, land and water systems, energy and transportation, community outreach, and quality of life. Those are the 5. And it's the stressors and recommendations is what the plan looks at.
Right.
So.
It's not a period of change, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, but it's all good stuff.
Okay.
Hey, I'm on the same page with you with trying to define how we're going to define the next couple.
Exactly,
Because for the past couple weeks, we've been like, well, how do we even pick 20 if we're not agreeing on what exactly we're defining?
Why don't you ask a question every 2 months? I'm not being flippant. You ask the question, what's our shared understanding? I think you were describing, and John picked it up as, what's our Camelot? What's our vision of Camelot 10 years from now? Where do we want to be? Low carbon footprint, a number of things. Doing the right thing, adapting to land.
How you get there, or maybe even, as you're saying, like I think it gets to the definition of board member role. Maybe we're not that grand, maybe we're just jumping in and doing stuff, and that's good. Or are we really conceptually tying it all together? Because I find myself trying to conceptually tie it together, because we have so many speakers coming through here, are wonderful experts. It is hard to put it into a what do you do with that without a big picture algorithm of how the outcomes tie together in each step.
Well, I grew up around Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That city has 300 years of history. You can go back, the building is 300 years old, okay? I have relatives that lived there 300 years ago. Almost. This city will not have that history. And long before 300 years, this will be a round sandbar. And probably the ocean will be beating against you say, and one people in the video I watched from down south made the comment, his goal, he was a fisherman, a water guy, to live here and enjoy it as long as we can.
Get a picture.
That was the goal. Okay? And that didn't mean that you're going to live under, 20-foot dikes or something like that, because you couldn't afford it. And so there's a point at which you say, and Monmouth, who's one of the big names in the sea level rise business, he owns property there, but he said, I wouldn't buy property here.
Well, and then to John's point, when I went to these conferences and stuff in the last month, that was my takeaway too. And, my mind was going 1,000 miles a minute. I had to take a second to breathe, but in 2,200, especially.
Orlando,
But-
would be around for a long
But then that's the idea, right? So how do you plan for where these people are going to go, climate change refugees? Are you going to, deconstruct the city and reconstruct and these kinds of things? But I just wanted to say from the Sustainable Action Plan to kind of help, again, guide this from the for today and tomorrow portion, which is the first thing that it says, with the future of our special community in mind, the city of Satellite Beach has constructed its first Sustainability Action Plan as a way to prepare for seen and unseen resilience challenges. Moving forward, our citizens can maintain a healthy, prosperous, and sustainable future for generations to come. This plan is for all those who have or will experience this beautiful city in the past, present, and future. The city of Satellite Beach is a community built on a historical foundation of great scientific advancement and exploration. Each thundering rocket launch that streaks into the sky from the nearby Cape brings wonder and knowledge and reminds us what we are together capable of achieving. Sustainability is more than just caring for environmental assets. Sustainable development also spurs a spirit of innovation to create economic prosperity and improve quality of life while building a society that thinks beyond its time, which I think goes to everybody's point of what we've been discussing and leaving with John's point. But we're many things, I guess, is the truth,
And that
right?
is beautiful and inspiring. It just doesn't always help me think about long-term decisions.
Well, and then I talked to Gordon about this the other day because I was going out of my mind with these like long-term things, but also you have to do what's right in front of you. You'll never get to 2,100 if you don't get to tomorrow.
No, but I opened the paper that I wrote
Yeah.
with a quote. It's a chess master back in the beginning of the last century.
Yeah,
And basically, I can't quote it, I can only paraphrase.
right.
He said, to win a game, you had to know what your end game was, and then you played the whole game towards the end game.
You
Okay.
planned the whole game.
Okay,
Yeah,
Orlando is going to have a different end game than we do,
right.
Right.
okay? Boulder, Colorado will have an entirely different end game
Totally.
than we do.
Fire and
Okay.
drought. Yeah.
Yeah, and Phoenix will have another one, they're gonna run out of water, okay? So each one of us has something that's going to be a controlling factor,
Right.
and right here is sea level.
Well, and I'm a strategic planner by profession, so I think of everything in terms of that. So I'm gonna take that grain of salt for you all. It's like, that's how I see the world, is without the preconditioned sequence, it's hard to follow that long path, because it's long and it's gonna outlast us as members on this board also.
Do you have a method to develop that?
I do, but I mean, I think the first step is, well, just proposing that idea that like, do we have a shared understanding of those interim outcomes that go to the long-term end game and start at the low-hanging fruit? And do we understand, like, so, these buckets of infrastructure and awareness, how do they fit together? How would we know in 5 years that they work together for an outcome that leads to the end game? So we can say 100% of the buildings are LEED certified, that's great, but what does that mean for a tangible outcome for resiliency in words that also connects to other of the GATs?
Well, I think that's a good one because it kind of plays into the other GATs of the 17, which is to help streamline future construction and management of operations for homeowners and businesses. So the things that we do,
Right.
we'll be able to give them to the next generation so that they can build the city of tomorrow by learning by our experiences, right? So all these, and then in my mind, that's the end game, right?
Right.
Old men of great science, they're truly great indeed when they plant trees whose shade they will never see. Socrates, right? So we're planting this tree, and we're learning from it so that we can do it again in multiple generations. All these things we're learning, how do we deal with sea level rise in a way that we learn how to deconstruct and reconstruct the city on top of itself as sea level moves us closer to A1A, and then eventually move all these people out and build another city based on the things we've learned. You know, we're gonna have this Encyclopedia Galactica by the time that we're done of information on how to build the resilient city because of our experiences.
Well, I would just say, do we have a decision-making, a shared understanding of the decision-making criteria for like 2 and 3 year goals? We have a decision-making criteria for what's immediate, like we can do it and it's important, and we have maybe a shared understanding of an end game. Do we have a shared understanding of 2 and 3 year goals? Of how we hear experts that say big things that are bigger than us, do we have a shared criteria on how to move forward on that? And that would, it's almost rhetorical. I would just leave that.
I think the part of it is we've been feeling our way since 2010.
Right.
We started with one thing, we went through and we've done everything we can to engage the community, get their feedback and stuff. Because if the community doesn't buy it, it's a waste of time.
I apologize.
Sorry, Chris.
I got a picture, 10 minutes from Dave. Thank you. I just want to try this exercise. I'm kind of along the same, that's what I want to know. It's like, where are we lined up? How do we pick the next 20? You know, how do we pick the next 20 and have it things that we can actually implement and complete feel really good? I wish we could complete every single one of those. How feasible are they? So that's kind of the questions that I have as we collect data. So what we've got right here in front of us is a Crawford slip method. Basically, you can sit by yourself right now. We've got a little packet here. It's got proposed ideas. It's got possible future ideas that Nick and you guys made up.
Hannah?
Right. We've got possible future ideas there. So you could, what I'm looking for is, I've given you 5 slips of paper, okay, and I'd like you to write down a dream achievement idea, 1 per slip of paper. Don't write multiple on your piece of paper. If you have any more ideas, ask for an extra sheet. So you can also just, like these possible future ideas, have blanks. If you want to use one of your sheets to fill in the blank for the percentage that we think we can do or something like that, because we can't, I mean, how are we going to agree to a percentage? So if you want to even use one of your sheets to fill in a percentage, so we can discuss that. Or make up some new ones. I have some new ideas myself that I'd like to put out there and see where it lies on our priority list or feasibility. So I want to give us, honestly, 15 minutes. I know it's too short now. If you have to go early, I completely understand. Do you think this is something that you could almost take it home? You could take this home if you want. But I would really like to get some data to go home with, to just look at and see how it relates to everybody's view on where we should go. So just take your time and read through these few. Maybe even this Millie the sea turtle. Is that's happening? That's happening. But
It's just a future project.
But is that on one of our gaps now?
No.
So can we make that?
You can make a gap consistent, like create eco art installations in the city or.
So that's like easily attainable, one that we can knock out.
But, I mean, maybe that's just the start of, multiple eco art installations.
Right.
Because you don't want to just create gaps to achieve gaps that you've already achieved. Like, they want to,
But
like Jennifer was saying, like, what's the reason for that gap to be there?
Just as she's saying, it's going to be an initiation of something that will grow to something.
Right.
I think we get stuck on trying to finish things 100% when we should look at a shorter step that it would take to complete the initial.
So if it was like to reduce plastic use in the community, how do you achieve that? Do you do that through education? Do you do that through eco art? Do you do that through these other mechanisms?
Action, modeling, yep.
You're here, Jennifer.
What's that?
Happy to hear it. It's a conversation I feel like we never really had. It was, it's really tough to have, and it's so deep and multifaceted with, I mean, I agree with John, 10,000% with the large scale of it, and then the small scale of it, and the day-to-day, and the week-long, month-long. You have to be like spinning 13 different plates at different speeds, at different heights, at different,
Probably need a vacation.
well, I'm scared to take one.
Right.
But I will.
Yeah.
So we'll save sheets and letters for next time.
Yeah.
Sure. Was it? I'll use the bathroom. You guys are doing. Grace, do you need to, probably head home at some point? Appreciate you sticking around.
I'm supposed to be maybe home by 10, so we'll be good.
Okay. Very brief for me, but very good. I mean, it's very candid and kind of, different. Trying to not jump in too much, but, kind of hard. You need 3 hours to have a really intense conversation. I'll just bring my colorworks. Colorworks glasses. They have some. I'll go.
is my intent.
I have a proposal. Do we maybe want to talk about these next time?
Those two?
Yeah.
So the next thing that I was planning on doing was creating an idea evaluation script where we would talk about the complexity of each of these ideas and how difficult they may be, and start graphing them to physically see where they lie, and discuss them, maybe even discuss the details. And then after that, I wanted to kind of try to prioritize each one of these creative assignments.
Here, if I put them on the grid, what are the axes?
Axes, we got complexity of implementation on the X, on the Y. And then we've got impact on the scope, which is something that we define as our scope, I believe.
Importance.
Importance.
Yeah, and that's basically what we did when we
Okay. So, I mean, that's awesome. So, I'd like to see if we can define it that way. Come together with ideas and see where they lie on that, so we can further discuss. Sure, if it's exactly like they did before, that's perfect.
Good one.
I guess that might be a good place to start next time, because we're gonna have 35 ideas here. You know, I think it's gonna take us at least 10 minutes to talk about how we're gonna be evaluating them. So I guess I think that might be a good place to jump on. I can't stay longer either. Yeah.
Well, I didn't mention theming before, like if we had time, we were gonna maybe theme, just so that we could have a jump start also on the conversation on clusters of things, and then maybe you could talk about, so why do you think some clusters were bigger? What's the underlying outcome? That might be a good way to go about it.
So are you guys okay with me looking through the data we got so far?
Yeah.
Try to organize it, best I can. So I'll bring every single slip back, for discussion.
Chris, can you type these up?
Yeah. I can type them up and also bring all the slips back.
Actually, come to think about it, what does Sunshine have to say about these slips?
Once they're typed up, they'll just become a supplement to this packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll keep the original ones.
As long as they keep attached to the packet.
Okay, now the question is, they don't have to be identified by name, do they? I'm just thinking we had a legal tussle with the council years ago, because they did a secret ballot vote and then got rid of the slips, and it wasn't.
Yeah, but that's because it was a vote, this is just my guess.
Okay, I'm just.
Do you want to leave them here?
Brainstorming. No, that's, I'm just very sensitive after 2012.
All right, well, let me get up there and end it.
Move we adjourn the meeting.
You move to adjourn? I'll second.
What about accepting the minutes from last,
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. Adjourn? Meeting adjourned, thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Good.
I'm not supposed to not just be, I'm supposed to just be staff, you know, but so
Oh,
smart.
yeah.
Your manager now.
I know, I'm not supposed to.
Everywhere.
Every
building, the DC.
Well, yeah, it does, because,
I work at Harrison.
it's more just